Okay, today we're going to look at a game played in the Tata Steel 2021 tournament, in which many of the top players in the world are playing, including Carlsen, Caruana, Maxime Bachilagrave, and a host of others. Uh, in this game, white is Andrei Esipenko, and black is the world champion Magnus Carlsen. It's interesting to see that the world champion is not immune to some of the harsh lessons that chess keep teaching us. So let's get on with it and have a look at what happened. Um, by the way, Esipenko is Andrei is an 18-year-old grandmaster, like probably every 18-year-old in Russia. He's quite young, but he's been hailed as a big talent. So he opens with e4, c5, so that's the Sicilian. Knight f3, d6, d4, takes, pretty standard stuff. Knight f6, knight c3, a6. So that's the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian. Najdorf was a Argentinian, I think, grandmaster from way back. He's left us, but he was a fine contributor to chess and quite a strong opponent in grandmaster tournaments. Bishop e2, just a simple development move. E6, bishop e3, bishop e7, and here is an attack that is theoretical, but not very often played. b5 is a standard way of counter-attacking. g5, knight f d7, that's the preferred move. a3, nice move, prevents b4. And Carlsen goes for the free pawn there. And he's probably going to regret that for a long time to come. Prior to this game, Magnus Carlsen was undefeated in 125 tournament games. So it's not easy to beat. Just a development move. And now we have the situation where the G file is open here on the queen side. Because he has already played this, the prospects of castling queenside is certainly not very good for. So really, that's his address, right here, or leaving the king in the center. And either way, it's going to be a difficult game. And as always in the Sicilian, you have themes of sacrificing here. Certainly not now, but later. You cannot push because you get in that square, and this one is weak as well. So there's a host of reasons justifying the sacrifice of the g-pawn, because white has clearly a castling, queenside castling that's quite safe, whereas black doesn't. And let's see how Carlsen continues. Now here the continuation is bishop b7, which makes sense. And then you want to follow up with knight c6, and you exchanging pieces that could contribute to an attack like this knight. So, but here Carlsen probably got a rush of blood. He plays queen h4, threatening nothing. Thank you very much. And here the Russian plays a very clever move. He straight away gets on to it and asking this pawn the question. And of course, how do you defend it? You're certainly not going to castle behind. You're certainly not going to take that pawn, because should you take that pawn, there's a simple castle, and then the rook starts hassling the queen, and it becomes untenable. So he had to play g6. And now it's worth noticing the dark squares are quite weak around here. And so simply castle now. There's no need to do anything else. The queen goes back, so that's probably a sign of maturity to accept that he made a mistake when he came here, and he's got the queen belongs to a much better square, especially as far as the defense is concerned. Some players would play queen here, but it doesn't lead to anything. And so the Russian just plays the best possible move in the position, which is a continued expansion here, control of the center here, and also prospects of playing this later on in the game. Bishop b7, king b1, a thematic move, which is basically putting the king into safety and asking Black the question, what do you want to do? The point of all this is that knight c6, which Magnus plays now, actually doesn't work, and for a very nice tactical reason, which exploits the fact that these squares are weak. And now we have knight c takes b5. Now, if knight takes knight, of course you just take back and you won a pawn. You won your pawn back. And I wonder if it wasn't so much a good idea. He may actually, if knight takes, queen takes, and you're on to this and that, so it won't work. So here he goes for this. And now, a standard way of sacrificing on the structure a6, b5 in the Sicilian to recapture this way in order to win that one. But here there's an unexpected surprise which Magnus didn't think of, is after knight takes c6, bishop takes c6. So what happened is knight c to b5, and we had pawn takes, and now the surprise is knight takes c6. Because after bishop takes c6, we have a surprise. And that's the surprise. These and these are both under attack. So what is he going to do? Well, very reluctantly, I guess, he castles. The queen takes there. d5. So he's starting to open lines towards the king. I mean, this way. And also, potentially, he may have this, except the pawn is going to be lost, I think, pretty soon. Takes. Then he goes rook f to c8. Like, you know, where do you want to go? And the queen cannot certainly go here, because then it's going to end up in all sorts of trouble. So he plays the right move here, and he plays the pawn on d6. Queen drops back. Queen takes b5 with impunity. So here he's got 4 passed pawns. That's definitely worth a piece, but he hasn't had to sacrifice a piece for it. And these 2 pawns here can kind of hold those 4, a little bit clumsily, but they can. So here we've got rook on b8 attacking the queen, and of course if you move in like c4 or something, you're going to lose that pawn because the rook is going to take here. But strangely enough, the Russian player don't seem to be phased, and he actually played this because he realizes that getting on c7 is far more important than this pawn. Rook takes, and now queen c7. Naturally, queen takes queen doesn't work. Pawn takes, you're onto the rook, and you're onto the knight. It just cannot work. So he moves the queen away, and then we have a rook g5. That's a move to possibly go on a5. shutting down everything. So with the queen on e8 now, it's far away from the attack on the queen side, on his queen side. And with the prospects of rooks getting exchanged, there's not much left. And also, in some lines, knight here is not possible because the rook is patrolling here. And I was thinking more in terms of if the rook gets over to c8 with the threat of knight c5, this rook is very well placed. But he's got a plan for the rook. Anyway, rook here. And then rook a5 as predicted, rook a to b4, and now the simple b3. How to continue? This way, retreats, queen gets back into some sort of action, bishop attack, so he's activating his pieces, and then he persists with wanting to go to c7. And here, Magnus made the decision to give the piece. But what happens is, if you take the piece, it's pretty messy actually. Queen takes, and then there is a mate, just like that. C takes b3. There's no other move. If you were to play a silly move like this, queen f4 check, and you would sort of cover with the rook and then mate here. So after queen d7 grabbing the piece, rook takes b3 check, and then you can play, if you take, rook takes. And if you go here, there's mate on b2, and if you go here, there's mate on b2 as well. So after queen f6, smart move, preventing this, because if you take now with this, white can recapture, and this rook is stuck on the back rank. So rook takes a8. Bishop takes, and now the queen goes to f5. That's a sort of swindlish move, but it's not bad, because well, it's threatening to take here and cause a bit of havoc. The king would move in the corner, not here, because of the queen takes f4 here, and then the rook would check on a4, and it gives counterplay, but it doesn't have to get into that. Just king up. Saves the day. The rook drop back to b5. So he gives the piece again. But this time, I mean, look, what else is he going to do? If the knight moves, the pawn gets pushed straight away. The piece is lost anyway. So here, Magnus gives the piece after rook b5, takes on d7. Rook c5, so now he's threatening all kinds of things, starting with queen to f6 check, and it's very easy to get mated if you're not careful. So now the simple move, I mean, this is like an ultra defensive move, which happens to work. Rook c1. Queen takes f4, and now we've got queen e8 check, king g7, and d7 forces resignation. There's nothing left. In fact, the engine says that in this position there's a mate in 19 move. Not that Carlsen would have seen it, but anyway. So that shows that when you breach the fundamentals of chess, which is king safety, not weakening squares. And not grabbing pawns, giving the initiative to your opponent. If you breach those basic principles, no matter who you are, world champion or anyone else, you're going to pay the price.